You know what's strange? Some of the most socially capable, emotionally intelligent people you will ever meet are also the ones quietly spending hours in conversation with an AI. Not because they have no one to talk to, but because something about it works for them in a way that even close relationships sometimes don't. And psychology has a lot to say about why. Because the behavior that looks, from the outside, like avoidance or loneliness, is often something far more nuanced. It is a very human response to a very specific kind of need that most social environments were never designed to meet. What the brain is actually doing. Here's what the research tells us. The human brain has a dedicated social processing system. It runs almost continuously in the background, scanning for voices, emotional tone, and conversational cues. And here's the fascinating part. Neuroscientists have found that this system does not sharply distinguish between real human interaction and simulated social engagement. When you have a conversation that feels responsive, emotionally attuned, and non-judgmental, your brain processes it as socially meaningful. Full stop. This is why the experience does not feel hollow to the people who do it regularly. It is not delusion. It is not desperation. It is the brain's social circuitry doing exactly what it was built to do, finding connection in the signals it receives, and registering something that feels neurologically like being understood. Why some brains are drawn to it more than others. But here is where the psychology gets genuinely interesting. Not everyone gravitates toward AI conversation equally. Research on social anxiety and what psychologists call evaluation apprehension, the fear of being judged, shows that a significant portion of people who spend extended time talking to AI report higher baseline sensitivity to social rejection. For them, every human conversation carries invisible stakes. What will they think of me? Did I say the wrong thing? Did I come across badly? Those questions run in the background constantly. With AI, those stakes disappear. There is no judgment being formed, no social memory of your worst moments, no awkward silence that carries meaning. And for a brain that has learned to treat social interaction as a potential threat, that absence of risk does not just feel comfortable, it feels like relief. The people who use it most. Interestingly, research into parasocial relationships, the kind humans form with fictional characters, celebrities, and now AI systems, suggests that the people most likely to develop these bonds are not socially deficient. They tend to score higher on empathy scales, higher on imaginative engagement, and higher on what psychologists call need for cognition, the intrinsic motivation to think deeply through complex ideas. In other words, it is often the most thoughtful people who get most drawn in. There is also a processing element here. Many people who talk to AI extensively describe using it to think out loud, not to get answers, but to externalize what is already in their head. Psychologists have a term for this: expressive elaboration. The act of articulating an internal state to an external listener, even a simulated one, helps the brain organize, clarify, and emotionally regulate. The conversation is doing psychological work, regardless of what is sitting on the other side of it. What this actually reveals. So what does this pattern really reveal about a person? A study published in Computers and Human Behavior found that individuals who engaged in extended AI conversation reported not lower, but higher levels of self-reflection and emotional clarity afterward. That is not a trivial finding. Therapy, journaling, meditation, all of these work through a similar mechanism. They create a structured space for the mind to examine itself without the noise of social performance. For many people, AI conversation functions in that same psychological category. It is not replacing human connection. It is filling a gap that human connection, even at its best, sometimes leaves open. But here is the tension that psychologists are beginning to pay close attention to. Because that relief, that ease, that absence of judgment, it can also become its own kind of trap. When the brain learns that one form of interaction is low risk and another is high risk, it starts to prefer the low risk version. Quietly, gradually, without you ever consciously choosing it. And what begins as a supplement to social life can, over time, start to feel like a substitute. The psychology here is not really about AI. It is about what human beings need and how readily we reorganize our behavior around whatever provides it most efficiently. Talking to AI is not a malfunction. It is a very modern expression of a very ancient need. The need to be heard without consequence, understood without performance, and present in a conversation without fear. What that tells us about ourselves is more interesting than most people realize.